Why hasn't the Biden administration punished China?
Punish China for what?
For the lab
for the
leak,
Wuhan lab.
for withholding PPE during the pandemic?
I think one of the reasons we haven't investigated the Wuhan lab is because the U.S. government, not just through NIH, but through the CIA and through USAID, was actually funding the studies in the Wuhan lab. And we did a very, very big technology transfer of bioweapons technology to the Wuhan lab, and bioweapons technology that was developed at NIH expense. I think the CIA was involved in, certainly in this research. They were funding it through USAID. And NIH, I think, in the end, gave about $26 million in funding to the Wuhan lab. But USAID, which was functioning as a CIA surrogate, gave over $64 million, and the Pentagon also gave a lot of money.
What's up, YouTube? How's everyone doing tonight? We are live. How are all you nerds doing? Yeah, I know his voice is quite injured and rough, man. But his words are true and speak a lot of truth. I was just listening actually to my local congressman, Gabe Ammo's office. Here it is. No, that's not it. Where is it? No, that's not it. Maybe I closed the window, but yeah, I think I closed the window because it was playing in the background. But yeah, my local congressman is a guy named Gabe Ammo, and I was just listening to all the Democrats. You know, I wonder if they're still on the telephone town hall line complaining about Elon. There's a whole bunch of people calling in and say, we didn't vote for Elon, and why is he running things, and how is he in charge, and all this and all, and people getting all mad about this the DOGE office and saying that it's Agenda 2025, that this is all part of this takeover, and they're all trying to stop it and fighting for it and stuff. It's crazy just to listen to the other side and what they're trying to pump out about, what everything that's going on. And I don't think it's necessarily Elon's fault that my Twitter account was banned. It's kind of messed up that they did that to me, but I got a new Twitter account. We'll see how long that one lasts, but I'm not going to get verified until I can actually get some following. And they've already put a flag on my account. All I did was like post a bunch of stuff about like other people in the UFO space that have just taken over, and I got this flag on my account. Where is it? I posted the whole thing when it happened. Oh yeah, this is that. Look, check this out. I took a screenshot of it. But it said, we've added a temporary label to your account which may impact its reach. No shit. So there is a shadow ban thing. Someone's in control of the algorithms behind the scenes that's really censoring certain posts. I've been trying to reach this guy who's supposed to be anti-censorship and part of this this whole process. I've been writing him daily emails, sometimes 2 a day, with all caps in the subject line so that he'll see it, and some more normal ones too, just to make sure. And I just can't believe that this guy's an anti-censorship advocate, but he's working with people that have done nothing but censor voices in the UFO community. And we're going to go over that evidence tonight here. So Jeremy Corbell is one of the people who, so I recently put together this petition, and I've gotten 19 signatures so far. I put this out to everyone in the chat. And, you know, they've tried to silence us so much in this UFO sphere and take control of this whole UFO narrative. Anyone can sign this too. This is just petitioning the congressman. It's just a ad on change.org. If we get enough signatures, it might get noticed. But really what I'm trying to do is just get the community active in realizing that the narrative has been essentially controlled by a select few people, mainly, you know, not Biden. What's this guy's name? Mellon, the Mellon banking family, and also the military industrial complex and intelligence community, of which George Knapp sadly has you know, fallen prey to over the years. It's kind of become this UFO grifters club, and if you're not in with the grifts in the UFO sphere, it's been like this. The whole UFO space has been like this for at least a decade now, where it's like, if you're not in with the crowd selling the grifts then you're not part of the club, basically. And if you call anyone out, no one calls each other out in order to be part of the club. You can't, you know, call anyone else out on bad information. You just have to provide your own in order to be part of that club. And it's very interesting. So I put a petition together, and I'm going to read it. The issue is, it was recently revealed that USAID has been funding a series of psychological operations being illegally waged against the American public through a network of paid influencers disguised as foreign aid, including influencers in the UAP and UFO community. Now, this I'd like to talk about that, and the influencers in the UFO community who are connected with some of these organizations. Two of these influencers, Luis Elizondo and Jeremy Corbell, have managed to dominate the UFO disclosure narrative for the last 5+ years, standing in as space fillers for an entire research and whistleblower community. So they've selectively chosen which whistleblowers are allowed to testify and which ones are completely shadow banned and silenced. This is an intelligence operation, and so far the evidence provided to Congress by these two individuals has been some of the absolute worst intelligence that the UFO community has ever seen. And let's talk about some of that evidence for a second. Lou Elizondo recently put out this. Okay, we'll remember the whole thing with TTSA. This lampshade, obviously, you know, this is not proof of UFOs. They're trying to fool us with a lot of nonsense, but I want to play this video for everyone too. And I thought I had more stuff open on this. But yeah, let's just play this video real quick with the audio. Let me switch it over so people can get a sense of who these people are.
Left the Department of Defense, ironically enough, to finish the very mission they gave me in the first place. I didn't ask for it. I'm not a UFO guy, not a ufologist. I never have been, I never will be. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. Left the Department of Defense, ironically enough, to finish.
These guys, apparently Lou Elizondo is one of the best counterintelligence guys in the entire agency, and they had hired him for this task. And he's currently working, you know, hand in hand with this guy Jeremy Corbell, who literally came out of nowhere. You go to Extraordinary Beliefs. Extraordinary Beliefs is this guy's website.com, and weaponize your curiosity. And you know, total egomaniac was complaining that he's being censored. This is Jeremy Corbell now, the guy who has a show on TMZ UFO Revolution, okay, complaining that, you know, he's not getting the attention he's not getting the attention he deserves, because Nancy Mace didn't say his name at this UFO hearing. Runs this website where he has this Immaculate Deception documentary. This has been on here since forever. If you really go on here, he's got this fake whistleblower, the anonymous interview. Jeremy Corbell helped put that together. Duke Richard Dolan and a number of other people into this fake CIA whistleblower. So fake shit. Sleeping on John Lear's couch, was making a documentary about John Lear, but stole a bunch of John Lear's books and apparently some of his Oxycontin pills and medication. And so John kicked him out of the house and gave the rights to all his stuff to his daughter. So Corbell never got the rights to this. So that's why this documentary has never been seen and never come out. All this stuff is, you know, suppressed. Of course, you know, John Lear is a key part of the whole Bob Lazar story. So he takes over this whole Bob Lazar narrative, you know, puts the new finish on it and sells it again to Joe Rogan on Joe Rogan several times, pushing that UFO crap to Joe Rogan. I don't know who got him on Joe Rogan 5 times, but Joe Rogan is finally waking up to the nonsense that's going on. We're gonna talk about that in just a second. But yeah, he's provided bokeh, flares, mylar balloons. The flares were the 29 Palms video that he put together. Both the jellyfish UFO and the Mosul balloon were most definitely debunked as mylar balloons. And then the reflective lampshade has been offered up recently by Elizondo as evidence. So meanwhile, former NASA and DARPA scientists, former black program contractors, and historians like myself, yours truly, and the work that we have been doing diligently on alien scientists for 20 years now, and through more recently the Alt Propulsion Conference that we have teamed up with. Enough of, you know, Jeremy Corbell's nonsense. The Alt Propulsion Conference is a community of engineers, researchers, and scientists who have really, you know, exposed the whole history of these black programs and the whole history of the government's quest for gravity control. That, you know, have been, some people have reported on this and stuff over the years, but it's been mostly blacklisted from the UFO hearings or the discussions, and a number of prominent voices in the UFO community continue to, you know, make assumptions and say things that are not true, and promote, you know, whistleblowers like, you know, Bob Lazar, who quite frankly just do not pass the physics and intelligence smell tests, especially when you go back to John Lear, 1987. John Lear is the guy that Jeremy Corbell again censored from the Bob Lazar documentary, and the story didn't even mention John Lear in his Bob Lazar documentary. Also doesn't mention Gene Huff and the whole Gene Huff side of the story, which is super, super curious. But everything in the Bob Lazar story, we've been able to trace back to unclassified, publicly available sources and information, including the Element 115 stuff, which on page 71 here of Scientific American of the May 1989 edition. You can buy this for $10 on their page, but I'd be happy to share a copy with any journalists or researchers who want to confirm this for the record, that it talks about element 109 and element 115 at a neutron number of about 166, right? So the ground state deformation changes right there is the element 115, and then it talks about element 114, and it gives graphs of the island of stability. You know, I put Bob Lazar's image over it just to show, but the graph of the island of stability, they were predicting, you know, right here around this many neutrons, and right about the element 115, 114 lines, and very interesting stuff. That was all unclassified, all public domain information. So none of Bob Lazar's statements have been confirmed. Just because they discovered element 115 a couple years later in a cyclotron experiment doesn't mean that Bob Lazar predicted anything important or relevant. He said this was an anti-gravity isotope that's never been discovered. And if you really look into the history, a guy named Glenn Seaborg predicted element 115 decades and decades before Bob Lazar. But anyways, back to smart people and real information to keep things on track is this petition. Meanwhile, we've got all these black programs and historians, that we've brought forward this information, meticulously documented the info, right? I have, how the Operation Paperclip scientists brought over metamaterials from the U-480 stealth sub that the Nazis had. And I have the Redstone Arsenal stuff, talking about the classified medical experiments on Jewish prisoners that the Luftwaffe did on, tortured people to death with pressure chamber experiments, and how Hubertus Strughold came over with all that intelligence, was like basically the war criminal that oversaw these horrific human experimentation projects. And our Air Force hired him because he knew so much about, high pressure systems and what it did to the human body, because black programs matter more than war crimes. And, all that stuff documented, the whole history of it. We go back to Roswell, what really happened in Roswell, all the legislation that was passed, the National Security Act being created, the Air Force being created, the NSA, the CIA, and a whole new department of the Navy, being created, and everything under this act that just basically it changed everything in our military. And didn't change the part about the Manhattan Project, what had just ended, in 45, after 4 years of hard, grueling work out in the desert of Los Alamos. Scientists had finally figured out how to make atomic weapons and energy, and that was in 45. And the main company that did that work is Battelle Memorial Institute, who's never talked about by any of these so-called UFO revolutionaries and whistleblowers who worked on the real programs. It seems to be just a disinformation op, and who's exactly behind it, I'm not really sure, but they seem to all be working together as just part of a grifting network, and everyone's just afraid of calling each other out on their bullshit. And that's worked to the advantage, of course, of the intelligence communities who want to take control of the narrative and prevent real whistleblowers with real evidence and, real research from testifying. Because if I could testify against Jeremy Corbell for about 2 hours, I guarantee he would never, ever show his fucking face in UFOlogy ever again. Facts. He would be out of UFOlogy for good. And you know why? Because Jeremy Corbell has provided nothing to this community but disinformation, and I have the receipts to prove it. Right, Oscar Klein? You know who Oscar Klein is? That poor old man. I worked at Area 51 on the aliens. Jeremy Corbell and Luis Elizondo have been given their chance. In fact, they've been given more than enough chances and more than enough platform to provide intel to Congress and the public on these topics. This is now what we call limited hangout operations and narrative control. This is a propaganda technique and a disinformation operation. And I tell you what, I was this close to calling the FBI today and reporting these motherfuckers, because their lawyer has been threatening a number of people on Facebook, and I and I just decided, it would actually be better. Yeah, thank you for. It would actually be better if they sued me, because, like in the Corey Good case, we could actually get deposition out of Elizondo. And we've been waiting for Elizondo to go on a hard podcast, someone who's actually informed and actually answer to real questions. But anyways, I put this petition together, figuring we get some attention on the congressman. Now, I don't know. We need to figure out a way to get it, because the Trump administration is wiping out this USAID thing and all the propaganda that and the influencers that they've used to, influence the media and stuff. But they don't understand that the whole UFO space is like the most heavily disinfo op space of all conspiracy spaces that there is. And so my just petition was to ask Congress to ban Jeremy Corbell and Lou Elizondo from any further testimony or influence over future UAP hearings, and give others like myself a chance to prevent our evidence on UFO reverse engineering programs. That's the evidence we talked about with Battelle and John Elroy Center, and also the construction of nitinol wire under Naval Ordnance Labs, and the whole history of that, all the numerous whistleblowers who have come forward about the memory foil that was recovered from Roswell, which if we get the JFK documents and they're unredacted, we will find out about that, by the way. Again, legacy deep state container organizations like Battelle that were created to, build the most classified components of the Manhattan Project and keep those classified. And those organizations still exist today and manage all of our national labs and have access. And we found out that these container organizations have been basically in charge of AARO, the government's investigation of themselves. So the UFOs, the people hired to investigate UFOs, are basically controlled by the same legacy deep state UFO container file organizations, dude. It's crazy. Battelle Memorial Institute. I don't understand why, and everyone's afraid to mention their name. Like Jesse Michaels put out that documentary with, the video with Randy Anderson, and they cut out the name of Battelle, and Battelle's in the basement where he supposedly seen this door that said Off-World Technologies, as if that's where they'd friggin' have this stuff. But who knows? Maybe that's where they do have it, and they really have a door outside, labeled that. It just seems pretty strange that would be the case. But again, why they couldn't just mention that and really talk about it and just nail it out there, I just don't understand. We have Trump in charge and supposedly getting to the bottom of all this deep state corruption and the people that have been killed and murdered, including scientists, and this USAID package thing, which is a huge, basically we live in the fucking Truman Show, is where we're at with this USAID scandal. All right. It's basically like USAID has been funding all these organizations around the world to produce propaganda that's fed back to the US as real news. And it's like, dude, this is like CIA massive disinformation operation. This is the most illegal thing I could possibly imagine, in my point of view, of anyone doing. These people need to be routed out and held accountable. And we don't realize that this is the same thing that I've been saying is going on in the UFO sphere for the last 5 years or more, and needs to be investigated, needs to have a competent person who knows these things inside and out to really get in there and investigate this stuff. Yes, that's what they've been putting on, a Truman Show for our fucking Congress. This small group of UFO cocksuckers. And then, Stephen Greenstreet gets out here to make fun of them all and just say that, hey, this is a UFO cult that's tried to take control of, and we need to just get these people out entirely. No, that's not where this needs to end. There's still things flying around in our sky and a lot to answer for. We need smart people in the room to figure that stuff out. And I know all those smart people, and I can put them into action if I'm given an executive office and a way and a means to put this through. So this is why I put this petition together, and I want this sent to Nancy Mace and Tim Burchett, and all those politicians who are interested in taking active measures against illegal domestic counterintelligence operations that are ongoing. They are ongoing. I doubt they would ever put me in charge of such an office, but there needs to be, we need to clean house inside the government, and this is the heart of it. These people shouldn't have been given their chance. They provided crap evidence, repeated that they have like the best stuff ever, and then it's just garbage, junk over and over again. And so that's why I'm encouraging everyone. There's the petition. I want everyone to change this. And UAP czar. That's it. I am UAP czar scientist, and that is my title on my other account on Twitter, in case they delete that one. So yeah, that's all right. Why don't you again, it's not, yeah, they don't deserve you. Yeah. Anyways, it's quite weird how Michael Shellenberger is the CBR chair of politics, censorship, and free speech at University of Austin, Texas.org. Again, this is interesting. I don't believe it. I don't believe a second of it. If you're working with Jeremy Corbell and letting him badmouth you on the phone in a TMZ rant that he did, that we played on another podcast, that's just this stuff is just, it's for the birds, man. These people do not deserve our time or our respect any longer, Michael Shellenberger. These people have been a cancer on the narrative, and this is just some of it that's been talked about. They talked about to help grow crops in Afghanistan. Well, what crops are they talking about in Afghanistan that we have to use taxpayer dollars to go and fund? And so DOGE is going after this and shutting it down. My congressman's getting all pissed and saying that Elon's running the government and this is not right. This is a Nazi takeover, and we're going to stop them. And I just it's a crazy time to be alive in this country right now. These people are absolutely panicking, and the millions of dollars that they've set up through this insane spending that have allowed for the creation of all these fake news organizations and fake news outlets that have essentially used our own money to create a Truman Show like reality for us to live in like adult fucking children, where we can't be told the truth. It's not only illegal, but it's obnoxious, right? Because those of us who know the fucking truth get called, get blacklisted, and they've been propagandized against us, so that when we're talking about this kind of stuff, you get people like, oh my God, these guys are disinfo agents. How could they be talking about silencing, Lou and Jeremy Corbell? Those are our two best guys. That's the best thing that's ever happened to the field. Right? No, they're not. These guys have gotten the only reason they've gotten so much attention to all this is because it's a limited hangout op that's designed and being controlled. And if you don't think it is, just look at all the money that they sent from USAID to all these other propaganda outlets, to all these other agencies. You don't think that something, Elizondo said he like quit his government. He lost his government pension, left his career as an intelligence officer, and lost all that to become this rogue whistleblower, which he didn't go to prison, by the way. We talk about what happens when you really leak real secrets or real information, or even just bring the documents home with you. You don't have to leak anything. Isaac Kemp has not reached out or made any attempt to contact us or talk to us. I'm pretty sure he's been warned not to, but that's okay. We read your thesis papers and we know all the science you were working on. So it's all right. We've got enough information that we don't really need to talk to you. It would be really cool to talk to you. And you're always welcome to blow the whistle on this show and call in live. Yeah, nobody's ever ex counterintelligence. Lou would be broke right now, living as a bum on the street. But if you really look into it with that Who's Lou documentary and the houses and properties and other things that he's bought and the patents that he's been basically written into as part of whatever deals he was involved with in the past. Yeah, it's quite an interesting character. But yeah, we see what happens to people that leak real secrets and real information. Okay. We know who the fake whistleblowers are. And again, my challenge goes out to Jake Barber. Okay, so this is the latest from Jake. Where was the latest from Jake Barber? Oh, God, I shared it on my profile. Let's go back here. Oh, and this too, right? So this is the guy. This is Chris Bledsoe. Chris Bledsoe is the guy that summoned. Apparently, he can summon UFOs and these orbs with his mind, but he can only do it when there's no skeptics around, right? So there's people that are too technical or too skeptical around. He's not able to summon these UFOs, and the family who allegedly have contact with aliens and UFOs and are able to summon these psychically. If you're too skeptical, it just won't work around you. But come to find out, this was filmed in at his house in his garage, and what do we see in the background? It's just an aircraft body up here. There's a fuselage tail back here. There's a plane right here. There's a plane right there. There's at least 5 or 6. There's a UFO model like flying saucers. So there's all these remote control aircraft and flying things right in the background behind him. And so a number of skeptics are like, maybe these are freaking toys that you're flying around when you tell people that you're summoning UFOs. How do you know that you're really doing it? And so there's been a challenge out to Jake Barber too. Where's the one with Jake recently saying that I don't know where that post is now. We got taken down. Yeah, anyways, this is Jeremy Corbell on the TMZ documentary. He claims that him and George Knapp don't get paid to work on news on UFOs. So the man with 3 UFO related documentary films with Orchid and with a monetized UFO podcast, money deals with TMZ, News Nation, and more, is not in this for the money and not making his money. And he just does. And he claims that he has a real job and he remodels and flips houses. Okay. I put the challenge out to Jeremy Corbell a year ago, last winter, when this fucking shit came out. Last January, this was January 11th, right? 2024, that this shit came out. It's now over a year later, and he's absolutely provided zero evidence that he's made any of his money off flipping houses or has any knowledge of flipping houses or the trade or the industry. I invited him on for a conversation with me, open. We can talk about flipping houses and answer all these questions. I have the real questions that I would ask Jeremy about where he gets his money from, who's funding him, and why he's blacklisting other researchers like myself, writing letters to Gene Huff, which Gene Huff sent me, showing me that Jeremy Corbell is actively trying to censor other people and censoring other voices, blacklist this guy. Don't let him in. Do not let this guy come in and talk so that he can dominate the conversation on UFOs, dominate guys like Shellenberger, who are supposed to be anti-censorship, but working with this pro-censorship, absolute ass clown of a man. Again, I have the website with all the receipts here as well. But Jake Barber and all these psychics, the best place we could do this, again, I will bring all my skeptic friends there. I will bring, and we'll get it on. Avi Loeb, okay, good man. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Avi Loeb, but he's the head of the Harvard Astronomy Group at Harvard University. Okay, he's super into UFOs. He's the fucking man when it comes to UFOs. Okay, this guy Avi Loeb. All right, he's right up here, an hour away from me, right here in Harvard. Okay, at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory on 60 Garden Street in Cambridge, Mass. Okay, here's Harvard Square right down here. Okay, there's the Charles River, and it's right up the street from Harvard Square. You just go up Concord Ave, and boom, you're right there at the observatory. Come down, look at our telescopes. Okay, you think Skywatchers and Jake Barber and your pathetic Skywatcher telescopes? Okay, these guys got cocks that are fucking 1,000 times longer, huger, and wider than your fucking cock. Okay, so if you can summon fucking UFOs, this is the place to do it. And don't hide behind your stupid little tiny penis telescopes with the Skywatchers program, buddy, because you can come right on fucking down to Avi Loeb's observatory with all the and is everyone who work at friggin' so does everyone who work at the Harvard Observatory working for Mossad? Are they all Mossad assets? No, they're fucking not. That would be absolutely impossible and retarded to believe that. Okay, so you can summon your UFOs to this place. These guys are the scientists and gonna. They're welcoming at Harvard to left-handed gay people. Okay, they are totally open to that there. So you're more than welcome to come down, and I'll join. I'll be with your personal security to make sure that no one messes with you while you're there, and we'll get this done for the whole observatory there, man. These people are the smartest and have the best telescopes in the damn country and the best observation equipment to really study these things. So why don't you come and do it there, and I'd be happy to set it up. That would be my first recommendation of a place to go and prove your shit. If you're so desperate that this is real, and you're making quotes on let me find the latest one. The latest quote from him is that forgive them, my Father, they know not what they do. Okay, so basically saying that he's Jesus, and that I'm the Jewish aristocracy of the time, basically questioning whether he's the Messiah or not. And he's like, no, I swear I'm the Messiah. I can summon these damn UFOs with my mind. I was on Jesse Michaels' podcast, for Christ's sake, with Jake. What's his name? The MMA fighter there, and the one all the kids like and know. And that means something. That's important because I'm for real. And even though I promised you that I can, summon these high definition UFOs with my powers, the only video we could release was this really crappy, blurry video of the egg. And we're sorry for that. That we didn't, summon some real UFOs and catch those on 4K film for you all, and have some really high quality proof and videos to show you before we came out with this story. Sorry, Russ Coulthart. But again, this could all be proven and set to bed. Just prove that you have these abilities and prove that you can do this. Stephen Greer seems to think that you can do this too, and was selling trips out there for the CE5 events. Curious to see what he has to say about all these connections and these devices. apparently he's seen devices that use 0-point energy. And that's got Ashton all interested. Oh, that's cool. That sounds really cool. But again, the proof is in the pudding, my friend, and that would be the best place to go and bring it. You know, your Skywatcher telescopes, just, you know, they're cool. Appreciate what you're doing. It sounds neat, but, you know, these guys, this is the place you want to go. This is where you want to bring it. Bring it here. That's where you're going to get the most recognition. So, in addition to all that, I just wanted to bring up, you know, we're talking about counterintelligence ops. We're talking about psychological operations. And I just wanted to bring up this document, because this document, the Mind War document by Michael Aquino, is just classic, and it's key to understanding all this stuff. And then also the foreword and the names that he mentions in here are just great when you really look into some of these names and these guys. You know, who knows who Paul E. Vallely was? Do you know who Paul E. Vallely was? Colonel, Major General Vallely. Okay, he's still alive, by the way. He's down in Pennsylvania. I don't know if he's still in Pennsylvania, but that'd be great to get him on and do an interview with this guy. But because he was the 7th PSYOP group. Okay. Very interesting. How many? So 7th PSYOP group means there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 PSYOP groups as well. That's what that would imply. But apparently the 7th one is the one that does some very interesting. Again, he came out in favor of certain things. Oh, so they never quite retire. Oh boy, huh? I gotta dig into some of these guys that he mentions in the, you know, of course, Fletcher Prouty. We all know Fletcher Prouty, Patton, Ian Fleming. That's James Bond and all that. But this guy, Gregory Cease, was one of the very most interesting that I found on the Mind War document. And this guy's still active. He's at Johns Hopkins University at the Applied Physics Laboratory, a faculty member. But he's like a psychologist, which is weird. Look at some of his publications just for a second. Training America's Premier Maneuver Force for Winning Without Fighting. That's what the Mind War document is about. It's about understanding that the war is really won in the mind, in the hearts and minds of the American people. And if you lose that war, then you've lost all the other wars. It's all just an illusion in our heads, basically. Counterintuitiveness, counter-influence operations, cognitive space, narrative simulation insights. Oh, anticipating threats to U.S. security interests, a biopsychosocial science approach for understanding the emergence of and mitigating violence and terrorism. Well, that's very curious and interesting publication, dude. Biopsychosocial applications to cognitive engagement. I mean, this guy's deep on psyops and the whole science of psyops. And some of these titles make me think this guy, like, they think they have a little bit more power and than they really do, you know, but they do have a lot of power. I mean, look at the way that they've absolutely just mind fucked the whole UFO sphere, the whole UFO narrative and crowd, man. It's just, it's like they've disinfo opt everybody for decades. It's not just Paul Benowitz and Richard Doty. It's like teams of these, you know, 1st, 5th, 6th, and 7th division of the PSYOPs group, you know, running operations on who knows the American people for decades now. I don't know how long We know that these illegal counterintelligence, domestic counterintelligence operations happen. It's just a fact. But how deep do they go, and what the real involvement is again, we're going to wait to be seen. The whole Sandcorp thing was really mind-blowing when we looked into, Sandcorp Consulting, and they don't say much about anything about what they do on their website or anything, but if you go to LinkedIn and you start digging through their board members and stuff, they're basically a perception management firm that specializes in AI online bot tools, like building bot farms for perception management and engagement farming. It's really friggin' weird and wild. And the most wild thing about all of it is that Arrow gave Sandcorp $4 million of the funding that went to Arrow supposedly to investigate UFOs for the damn government. They went and paid it to this Sandcorp company, and the contract is there for Arrow. $4 million. It's freaking nuts. $10 super chat here from Philip Blair. What's up, Philip? And the Dalai Lama. Firestorm, Dr. James E. McDonald's Fight for UFO Science by Ann Drufel. Yeah. Forward by Dr. Jack Fillet, 2003 book recommendation. Professor McDonald was our leading atmospheric physicist in the 1960s, and he was one hell of a ufologist. You know that McDonald was involved in the RB-47 incident, right? You read the original report. It was written by I think not written by him, but it was investigated by James McDonald. It's one of the top cases that he mentions because they recorded an RF signal during that UFO encounter. And that RF signal has been the center of a number of reverse engineering efforts. If you really look through the history of it, we talked to the guys who they knew about. I learned about this RB-747 encounter and the signal from a former DARPA guy that was, in charge of a lot of the DARPA stuff, a guy named Paul Murad. Sorry, not Murad. It's Paul Murad. He's dead now, but Paul, Paul was an interesting guy. I wish he had shared more at the end there instead of doing what he did on I was really disappointed by his last chance to give a podcast, So Paul Murad, if you look up the APEC conference that he did, and it's not this Paul Murad, you'll have to go to YouTube, go to my alien scientist page, or you can go look this up on Alt Propulsion. It will probably work too. That's the only way you're going to find the right Paul Murad. But yeah, the Paul Murad, he's a PhD and a big, long-time DARPA guy who's been just there since the early 80s, I believe. And he had the opportunity to just open up about so much stuff, man, but he just did a presentation that was all aliens and just disinfo nonsense. And it was really disappointing, man, because now he's dead. And, he took a lot of those secrets to the grave that he could have shared with the community, man. And that's just a shame. Shame you did that, Paul. I wish you had shared more real history and information with us when you had the chance, man. I think you may have wanted to, and I don't know, man, it sucks. This is a great channel to learn chemistry from. I just had it up before the show, but if you interested in chemistry and just learning about chemistry, this guy has amazing videos, super informative. He goes into all kinds of different stuff and then talks even a little bit about how to make a lot of the stuff, makes a lot of it for you. It's quite educational and quite entertaining. Sorry, excuse me. The USAID propaganda runs deep. It looks like a bunch of fake posts about USAID were put out on Reddit and stuff, and looks like they got deleted. So, you know, a lot of people voted that it was propaganda. So it looks like they put out a lot of fake lists of USAID spending lists in order to confuse people ahead of the story. That's common in disinfo ops and in intelligence. It's called the, get ahead of the story. They try to get ahead of, I forget the name of the technique. Probably it's on the list somewhere, but yeah, man, some of the names on that list were pretty far out there on this, but every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who are in hunger or are not fed, those who are cold and not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, and the hopes of its children. It's not a way of life at all in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. That is Dwight E. Eisenhower. That is a heavy statement. This document is really cool. It's in the description below, so you guys can go and read it and dive in. Politicians should read science fiction, not westerns and detective stories. Arthur C. Clarke. Yeah, this is a very interesting book, very interesting read. Again, it's for free out there, and talks all about psychological operations, and then you can learn a lot about the people who are really involved in psyops and whatnot. But that is a good introduction document and some background literature. It looks like a number of these psyops were run on some billionaire investors or millionaire investor. A lot of tech, like the tech investors and stuff, got swindled by these scam artists, and now they're in kind of like a bad position because they took investors' money for some of these techno scams, with promises from other people like Bigelow and others that they'd be having something legit, and then they got like all that kind of rug pulled under them, which is now being, used by opportunists like Stephen Greenstreet to paint all this stuff as, oh, well, this is actually Brent Crane that wrote the article, but Stephen's been sharing it and trying to, basically saying that, belief in aliens made this guy go nuts and ruined this very successful, wealthy person, made him go nuts and lose a ton of money. Okay. That's the idea, is they don't want, the propaganda value of this, to really understand this, is that they do not want anyone investing in the UFO technology stuff. They want to keep all that technology to themselves in these black programs, cover it up with a whole bunch of nonsense and bullshit. So we'll have an never-ending supply of just crap to waste funding on, to really, if we're trying to research this, unless, so we've tried to avoid a lot of that. We've already done tons of the experiments. We've replicated, 70 years of classified military projects and programs. So a lot of this stuff is, stuff that we've tried or done. We haven't done the TR3B rotating mercury plasma test yet. And we haven't been able to make element 115, a stable isotope that looks like copper yet. So we're just waiting on Bob to make us some of that element 115 before we can run those experiments. But the rest of the experiments we've pretty much done, including, getting a piece of that arts parts material, right? Look up Falcon Space Arts Parts. And yeah, right here on Flickr. Yeah, they cover it all up with alien BS. Like this fake piece of alien debris that they floated around and tried to they swindled a whole bunch of investors for money in this techno scam with TTSA and the spaceship that they were going to build for everyone. To the Stars Academy was going to build everyone this spaceship. They showed this spaceship off with the Tic Tac video, and that news article came out, and they had everyone convinced that they were going to, you know, be the ones to bring full disclosure with this piece of UFO material that they had supposedly, you know, given to the Army as part of this big CRADA agreement, that they were going to, you know, investigate the technology and slowly release it to the public and tell the public what was really going on with all this stuff. But, you know, none of that happened. And they gave a report on it, and the report came out from Arrow saying it was definitely part of this Betterton-Kroll process, slag material, which is makes perfect sense. It's not a piezoelectric material. It's not a polariton condensate material. It's none of the real. It's not a strange metal, right? It's none of the materials that we've talked about on this channel as potential candidates for negative energy states, or this sort of exotic energy states that are needed for warp drive creation, right? Real actual friggin' warp drive, right? So that's what we were promised, was real warp drive. And, you know, things like strange metals, which are topologically equivalent to extremal black holes. And then the piezoelectric effect, that the pace effect, and these other scientists have talked about, right? Or the quantized inertia stuff, right? So again, I'd love to see Sabina Hassenfelder do a video on quantized inertia and a video on Salpase. Not just make one video on friggin' Eric Weinstein and say that you debunked all anti-gravity theories and all anti-gravity information out there. That's nonsense. I want to play this clip for you guys, because this was pretty powerful. This is Joe Rogan Experience today. Again, I hope I don't get copyright hit for this. This is shared with fair use. We're just sharing it for comment only on this. Brett Weinstein, who's on the podcast here in this segment, is a personal friend of mine. I, go to bat and defend Brett on anything. He was spot on through COVID, and he's been a voice of logic in Joe Rogan's ear when it comes to all this UFO stuff. And he's really just learned from the stuff that I've taught him, because he, just watch this. This is great, because Joe gets it. Joe finally is getting it. Marabou, if you want to look this up, we've covered this on this channel before. And again, his work is super classified and will be classified under NDA until 2027. But yeah, this is I don't want to just I got to break it up a little bit too, because I don't want them to just flag me for copyrighted content. We're just definitely go and watch that. I want to show this right here. It's about to be the part where I just want to show where, yeah. So again, the noise in the air. They have talking plasma balls. You look up the video, Pentagon talking plasma balls. We've played this before on this channel. It's, I guess I'll play it next, but you guys, I want you to look up the interview that I did with TD Barnes on my channel. If you go to my channel and you search for TD Barnes, I'll find the video right here. There's here's the video, and I asked this guy. He worked out at Area 51 for 20 years, and I asked him what his thoughts on the Tic Tac were, all these things, and this guy told me it's all our spoofing technology and these advanced kinds of systems, ECCMs. Man, it's wild. He's the guy like proposed it years ago, and apparently got big funding from Bill Gates. I think it was to do that. I'm not really sure what that was about. But yeah, let's forward it to this. This is great because this was today on Joe Rogan, and Brett Weinstein, of course, learned all this damn information from having me on his podcast. Man, like I showed him all this stuff when I went on his podcast. You can go back to Dark Horse and look up the episode with Jeremy Riss on there, and and so all this information came from me giving it to Brett, which is great. I wish that Brett did give me a shout out on Rogan. That would have been awesome, man. But maybe someday. This is great. I don't care. I'm not like Jeremy Corbell. I'm not gonna sit here like and pull a Nancy Mace on Brett Weinstein and cry because he didn't give me a shout out for this information, because that came from me, Brett. That information came from me. You didn't give me a shout out, Brett. We're still boys. I don't care about recognition at all. Please just continue to get the information out there. And I don't care if you don't mention me at all, as long as you're sharing legitimate, good intelligence and good information. Because I talked to the top guy out at Area 51 about what these damn friggin' UFOs were. And yeah, it's all right, because my people know. And I don't need the recognition, because I don't need to prove anything to anybody, because I got all the receipts there. And the time is going to come now that Bush, now that Trump is in charge of really taking down the whole, the JFK files are going to come out. The FBI is getting cleaned up with Kash Patel. It's going to become a monument to the deep state. All this stuff is the heart of so much. So all this stuff, really, there's going to be a lot of hearings. We essentially have is a 72-year crime spree in America since the CIA assassinated JFK. And they took over. JFK created the USAID program, if you go back to it, right? So where is the RFK saying on USAID? Did I play that clip already? I don't know if we got the whole clip of it, but yeah, RFK has been calling out USAID for a long time now, because essentially his uncle created USAID, and then now, like a CIA front, they're basically, the CIA killed his uncle and took over USAID and has been just using it as a front to fund all this illegal activity through the guise of foreign aid. And fund tons of propaganda that are again around the world. It's illegal to like fund domestic propaganda and counterintelligence activities. So they'd fund other foreign news media to run these propaganda pieces, which would then be copied back to the US. And that's how they were basically getting around the loophole of illegal domestic counterintelligence operations. They'd outsource it to these sort of other people. And that's exactly what Lou Elizondo has been doing in a controlled, limited hangout within the UFO community. And of course, he has plausible deniability, because you can just claim that he's, on the right side and trying to do the right thing again. So who knows? I know a lot about what's going on in this sphere with the UFO stuff, and I cannot wait for all that to start coming out eventually once, we get through. They've been on a 72-year crime spree in this country, and they went absolutely nuts the last 4 years, especially when they're trying to cover up for the crimes of 2020 and the whole COVID scam and the scandal that has all erupted. All the stuff that we said on this channel during COVID and almost got I couldn't say a lot on the channel. I was saying most of it on Twitter because Twitter wasn't shadow banning me for that stuff at that time. You know, that time it was just that was the only place I could post it without getting blocked. I know I said it on a number of other channels, right? So you go to Demystifying Science podcast, Demystify Sci, it's called now, right? Demystify Sci podcast. So I did a podcast with them. I don't know if it's still up. They said it got taken down. Yeah, it did. It got taken down. So I had done a podcast with them and during the pandemic. And on that podcast during the pandemic, I had said this was a lab-made virus. It was man-made bioweapon. It was intentionally leaked. And that the people who were, you know, trying to sell us this nonsense vaccine were the ones in charge of creating it and leaking it. And that video got taken down for medical misinformation by YouTube. And again, all of that information has now been verified and proven to be 100% fact. And I really wish that you know, those videos could be reinstated because it's a record that I predicted this when everyone else was saying nonsense about science. All these people were getting the science wrong. We got the science correct on this channel because we're skeptical. We keep an open mind and we don't just trust things at face value, and we go off information and our instincts that's reliable. Just because the mainstream media is telling you that there's no way it came from bat soup, and you're a racist for suggesting that it came from a lab leak at the Wuhan lab in China. How could you say that? And it's just, oh God, it was terrible. But yeah, that's all. Again, I wish that, you know, I would love to go on there. I got to get these guys back on the podcast again soon and do another more discussions with them and bring that up because that was just terrible. We've been reporting the truth and on this information. This should have 700,000 views of the guy who actually knows what's going on at Area 51, telling people about the damn Tic Tacs and everything, and it's got 7,000 views. This is criminal what they have done to real information in the in the algorithms and with suppression and disinformation and counterintelligence. They've taken the real experts, the people that actually know what they're talking about, and silenced their voices, and they've amplified a bunch of clowns who very definitely don't know how to remodel houses or flip houses or do anything outside of grift. And they've propped these people up and allowed them to take complete control over the UFO narrative. And again, this is just absolutely horrible. These people, if they were real whistleblowers, and the real whistleblowers that have come forward, they'd be fled to foreign countries like Edward Snowden, or they would have gone to prison for a year for bringing the documents home, let alone, you know, leaking the intelligence and talking about it and going on podcasts and opening up these group accounts and going on, you know, and doing all that, right? That we just know from real experience with real stuff and real information. Again, my new YouTube channel, please follow me in my new Twitter account at jeremyriss.ufos. And again, these people have targeted me personally, gone after me and spread defamatory statements about me, started defaming me on other podcasts. When I went on Danny Jones and got 1 million views on Danny Jones, finally on a mainstream podcast, exposing Corbell, right? You do concrete risks. I exposed Jeremy Corbell and Bob Lazar on that podcast. And again, I got put out a ton of information. It's gotten over 1 million views since a year ago, right? In this video, they totally have tried to troll me and you know, say that I'm a Fed. This guy's a Fed. It's all them trying to like tell people like don't listen to like basically you brainwashing people against the information and against me as a person before you've even had a chance to see the information, before you could even digest the information. because they're so fucking afraid of what I'm talking about, what I'm saying, that the facts that I bring to the table, that they absolutely will not say my name. They just say this debunker guy, and he's a troll, and don't talk to him, ghost him. He will, he did say my name in that email to Gene Huff. Jeremy Corbell did, trying to get Gene Huff not to talk to me, trying to, block off my access to whistleblowers and witnesses and inside sources. And then, calling me a Fed, all these, like a ton of these comments this guy's just reeks of Fed. This guy's a Fed, totally a Fed. It's the same way that they attack RFK Jr., make up these fake smears about him. Won't talk about that. They'll take one thing I say out of context, play that clip, and be like, look at what this guy's an idiot. And yes, exactly. And when if you really dig into any of that stuff, that's what I need. I need to I should mess up my hair more. That would I guess I got too much of a Fed haircut going on there. But anyways, it's crazy what has happened in the sphere, and we've done so much, man. We've done so much over the years to really bring information out, and the scientists who are really working on these are hard problems. Okay, this was not figured out by a bunch of scientists in 1954, like Stephen Greer claims, right? You seen that clip, Greer, October 1954. Whoops. Yeah, this one. All right, let me play that clip. I'm gonna stop the screen share. We're gonna play that one with the sound so everyone can hear.
Like electromagnetic field.
We'll listen to Greer get all the science wrong.
Propulsion systems that allow you to drop out of 3D space and appear at another point in space by going through other dimensions. Okay. Now, you can do that without going transdimensional by just creating energy from the so-called zero-point field and creating an anti-gravity effect. So you have lifters so that you can go 100,000 miles per hour, make a right-hand turn with no deceleration effect because you've created a bubble in space-time that corrects for one gravity. That's what a lot of the, quote, UFOs are that people see being test flown out near Nellis and the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, and et cetera, and so on. We mastered gravity control October 1954. I was not a twinkle in my father's eye. Most of you weren't born at that point. I wasn't. And that is when we mastered gravity control. How do I know this? The third highest ranking official at the Naval Research Labs, the largest defense lab for the Department of Defense here in Washington, has been a friend for years, and he was in the vault and saw the documentation for this, unredacted, because it's all the original documents, and that was the date. So we have not needed jet engines, rockets, oil, gas, public utilities, surface roads, think about this, steamships, internal combustion engines of any sort for at least 60 years. And if you really go back to the earlier part of the century, we're just plain free energy from Tesla type things, 100 years. But you're stepping on a stockpile of money and commodities and mineral wealth being traded, oil, coal, other uranium, that's worth in the aggregate several $100 trillion. The US federal budget is $3 or $4 trillion. And if you take out entitlements and things that are mandatory, it's a fraction of that. So it's the tail is wagging the dog here. So the financial interest, the petrodollar interest, the big commodity trading firms like Goldman Sachs, and the big money folks, that's where the action is. And those are the masters. Not the president, not the Congress, not the UN Secretary General, certainly, not the Prime Minister of England, etc. So let's just pull the mask off and just admit that we're living in a period of petro-oligarchs, kleptocrats, klepto meaning theft, like a kleptomaniac, kleptocrats, and that this sort of myth of free markets and a free society and an open and free democracy is just a myth. Because our democracy was hijacked decades ago. Now, on trivial...
Okay, so I just want to play that clip because Greer makes quite a few claims in that word salad again about the anti-gravity and zero-point energy technologies, and makes a lot of claims and promises about disclosure that I just I don't agree with, and I don't think that he will, or the U.S. government, or any of these, the DOE or even Battelle can provide on all that stuff that he just claimed. I think we've got a long way to go to figure out cold fusion. I think there's been in total ignorance to a lot of that stuff, to a huge degree, and that it's underfunded, it just hasn't had the the attention that it's needed. A lot of this missing money is super wasteful spending. And again, just because the head of the Naval Ordnance Research Labs told you that we mastered anti-gravity control in October 1954 doesn't make it true, man. And if you knew any of the history about who was working on gravity control in 1954, you'd know that there were a couple different groups, actually. There was Lewis Whitten and Son, right? So there was the Lewis Whitten, okay? This guy is a gravitational physicist, and he was hired by Glenn L. Martin Company to work on anti-gravity in the 1950s. So if there was anyone that would have figured it out, it would have been this guy, and he would have known about it. Of course, he hasn't said anything about it, talked about working on it, and of course they, gave it up after the Cold War and everything. And might be, Eric Weinstein has this idea of Lewis Whitten being a forerunner in this whole anti-gravity environment and everything. He definitely was part of it, admits to it in that memoir video. It's played in, you can look up the documentary on Kurt's channel, Kurt Jamungle. And if you go to Kurt Jamungle's channel and look up gravity, you'll find that video. It's my Twitter's, my thing's broken, so I can't find the video right now because it's bringing up the wrong stuff. He's coming on 104 years old in 3 months. The dude's still alive. This guy is the secret and the key to all this stuff. I just don't know if he could talk or even what he'd say, man. This guy's so old now. But a number of years ago, he talked about being involved in this anti-gravity program for Glenn L. Martin Company. And we know that it wasn't the other groups because of the 1957 Chapel Hill Conference, right? That was the Bryce DeWitt and Son group. And of course, Bryce and Cecil DeWitt, the husband and wife team from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and they work with Richard Feynman, who attended that conference secretly under the name Mr. Smith. And that is all published, and a lot of the stuff that came out of that conference is well known, being in the history of gravitation and physics and stuff. So there was nothing secret about that. There was no secret discovery in October of '54 that these people were covering up for by holding this conference. So it just doesn't make sense with the history, and I'd really like to know where the heck Stephen Greer got this number, and who exactly told him that. So we'll find out that out soon, hopefully. I'm hoping. And again, I got a bunch of you now following me on my new Twitter account, Jeremy Riss UFO. Please go and follow my new account there so I can stay current with all the fun stuff that's going on Twitter with Lou Elizondo and these whistleblowers and guys that can summon remote control airplanes at whim with their crazy psychic powers, but it only works for non-skeptics to see. I don't know, man. I just don't know what to believe with all this stuff. I would love to for it to be true, and I think the best challenge that you could possibly do is to summon some of these orbs for the Harvard Observatory up there. That would be the best place to really capture high def information about all that. Again, wild what's going on. Yeah, this is a great chat. You guys are awesome. And if I were to get in front of Congress, the first thing I'd bring up would be Project Stork and Battelle. The fact that the last time we had a congressional hearing on UFOs was in the 1960s, and all they had brought up was this Project Blue Book was the investigation. And it turns out that Battelle had another separate investigation into UFOs at the same time called Project Stork, and that was much more classified. And only parts of this have been brought out publicly and declassified. And of course, Battelle's a private nonprofit corporation. So did they have UFO products? Thing I also would look into is whether or not Wright State University, okay, this would be very easy to do, is we go out to Wright State University and talk to their maintenance department and say, like, hey, we'd like to go in the basement of Alien Hall, which, or right over here, University Hall, up in the top corner. Somewhere we think that there's there was old hidden rooms in the underground facility. So there's a whole underground tunnel system under the campus at Wright State University, which is, again, right smack next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where they brought the Roswell wreckage in the late 1940s. According to people who worked on it and rumors about the base and all the stuff, that it all went into these secret tunnels that were under Wright-Patterson. And now all the tunnels are open. They're part of the university campus tunnel system in the basement. But it'll be real easy to figure out if those were repurposed in 1960s during the construction of the campus to hide an original tunnel system, which was potentially a storage unit and facility for the Roswell debris early on. And so I think that it would be possible to get the maintenance or someone to do a core sample drilling of this, basement, and just do a test on that concrete to figure out how you can very easily tell exactly when the concrete was poured and the year and everything, and send that sample analysis out for some studies. That would tell us right away if these tunnel systems, which, again, they're very expensive to build these types of tunnel systems, and no university in the world has this same as complex of an underground tunnel system connecting all the buildings. It just doesn't, that sort of thing just doesn't exist, and is just too costly. So who built the tunnels? Why did they build the tunnels? And did they repurpose them in 1960s for this campus? And how much older are they? And can we figure out, is there any other tunnels or rooms or bunkers that were filled in the process of, the 1963 reconstruction of this lot into a university campus? So yeah, that would be a cool, easy, quick investigation that we could do. The mind war and psychological operations, they're much harder to unravel. Again, I think it would be best if I could get Jeremy Corbell on a podcast to just ask him some detailed questions about his finances, and or get someone to interview these people, because they're suspected of running some very serious counterintelligence operations for the past year or so. And I would love to find out, how much of this illegal funding went into UFO research programs. That would be amazing to find out. If we could find out that these whistleblowers, supposed whistleblowers, the fake whistleblowers that keep coming out with no evidence, are part of a paid a counterintelligence operation, then that needs to be investigated and uncovered. And again, it's another more distraction and layers on the onion of the cover up. But still, it's just an annoying thing that gets in the way without when you don't have evidence, and when you could have waited a couple months to collect that evidence using these techniques if they are proven and work, before you release the story, just to confirm that. It's just kind of like, again, I am so convinced that this will be another David Grush, and that we'll be here a year from now, still looking for evidence of this, while they've distracted all this conversation and really just messed up the whole narrative and really just turned off Congress and the public to the whole UFO scene, with this active misinformation, disinformation, counterintelligence nonsense. Again, if this is true, the best place to set up a Skywatcher event with the summoning would be the Harvard University. And with those people and their telescopes, not your tiny, tiny little penis telescopes, you can go to the Harvard Observatory, and there are some much bigger telescopes that make your small little telescopes look incredibly tiny, Jake and friends. So we're sorry, but there are real people in this, and then there are credulous believers and uncredulous dupes. Yeah, it's a mess. I wonder who's who and who knows what, and that was something I would investigate on day one, is getting to the bottom of all the disinfo ops and all this sphere, and just getting proof. If this is not going to be a Corey Good type thing, and look what happened with Corey Good. Corey Good was forced to give a deposition because he sued all the people calling him a fraud, because all these people started, calling out his story and really blowing holes in it. And he decided to sue one of those people for defamation. And that opened him up to deposition and a lawsuit. And he finally got to ask real questions, and if Elizondo may threaten these lawsuits, but he's not going to do that. And if he does sue anyone in this field who's skeptical of him and asking questions of him or Jake Barber or any of these guys, remember, if they sue us, we win, because that opens them up to deposition, and then we can finally get them on and ask them real questions, the same questions that they will not answer, because they will not go on podcasts that will ask them those questions. You'll never see Elizondo go on with any of the people that actually know what to ask him and what to call him out on. It just doesn't happen. And when it does happen, when we do sneak a good question in some of these shows, it exposes them. They get asked that question, and like that clip of Elizondo on Julian Dory, where he says, my allegiance lies with the intelligence community, and if it comes down to I'm not going to be catastrophic disclosure, and I'm not going to put information out there. And again, Lou Elizondo calling Stephen Greer a terrorist, and then Greer on this show recently calling Elizondo a disinformation agent. I'm going to play that clip real quick just so people can just hear this.
Operatives who are at meetings to provide information initially. And I know others are doing that. Unfortunately, some of the others doing it are known counterintelligence operatives who are providing false information. So I, briefly had a quick chat with Don Jr. at a meeting, and he had been taken in by a known counterintelligence person named Lou Elizondo, who is someone working to intercept these whistleblowers and then turn.
You seem to be a big fan of his. It's what I hear.
No, Elizondo is a paid disinformation person. And
how convinced are you of that?
100%. I have an email from the top guy at the CIA who was there when Ronald Reagan wanted to know about this when he was running for governor, who was a very young postdoc, and he immediately wrote and said this is what he's doing. Now, recently, Mr. Elizondo has started saying more correct information. Initially, he said, all of these objects out here, we don't know what they are or how they fly. Now he's admitting we have the man-made ones. And I'll tell you, the mass majority of the UFOs people see, they're not from outer space. They're not alien. They're ours. But they have dangerously been used in false flag operations and deceptive operations, what the Pentagon calls a deceptive, indication and warning, or deceptive INW. The pop culture would be false flag, which means you just set up a decoy, you set up a false operation. So that was his primary responsibility when he first emerged, was to gaslight officials, gaslight Congress, and intercept witnesses.
That's a job, right? So
It's a very big job. And there are a lot of people like that out there in what we call the legacy UFO subculture. They're embedded. I mean, they're not going to wear a
That's
sign
exactly
that say, hey, I'm
what
from.
they did, man. No, they're not going to wear signs. What they did is they came out with TTSA and they set up a whistleblower trap. They were like, anyone who has, remember the first thing Lou Elizondo did when he came on the sphere was to create the Adams Project. Okay, let's really be clear about this, Mr. Greer, because we go over the history of it. There was the Adams Project, and the Adams Project, as you recall, was Lou Elizondo, showing this material that they had and saying that they were going to release all this to the public, that they had pieces of UFO materials, and they were going to, basically they were collecting them from the public. They opened up a hole. And again, this new Adam Project thing came out with I don't know who made this with Ryan fucking Reynolds, but it's not what I was looking for or wanted to see and get. The Adams Project with Lou Elizondo. And they covered this up because this was a domestic counterintelligence operation where they literally got everyone in the entire UFO community to hand over any piece or fragment of weird material to Lou Elizondo. And then it all went to the fucking U.S. Army. Instead of being public and open about any of it going to labs or us getting a piece of it for our own independent alien scientists scientific study. No, that didn't fucking happen. And what happened to that material is he gave it right to the fucking Army. And that is what Elizondo fucking did. Don't anybody forget it, man. The Adams Project. That was the first thing that TTSA did in 2018 when they came out with this big disclosure initiative, and they were going to be disclosure. Yeah, they got everyone in the public to give all their materials over to fucking Lou Elizondo. That is the first thing that happened, Greer. Let's not forget it and not get it twisted. Because the Adams Project is in itself a very intelligent and sophisticated intel operation for getting rid of all that nasty potential physical evidence that might be lying around in the public. Terrible what they did. Yeah, man, that's right, Lou. That's where it is. The CRADA agreement. We didn't get that material, Lou. Okay, you confiscated all our UFO debris and you handed it right over to the government, the people that took it in the first place, man. And now I can't find anything on the Adam Project except Ryan Reynolds' movie, which I will never ever watch. Anyways, yeah, it's pretty wild what they've done. But yeah, let's play that for everyone again because I don't think you guys quite heard it.
Someone working to intercept these whistleblowers and then turn.
You seem to be a big fan of his. It's what I hear.
Briefly had a quick chat with Don Jr. at a meeting, and he had been taken in by a known counterintelligence person named Lou Elizondo, who is someone working to intercept these whistleblowers and then turn.
You seem to be a big fan of his.
That's right. No, it's crazy. Yeah, the arts parts piece, man. They had the arts parts piece, and it was just a piece of Betterton Kroll slag from a smelter, a lead smelter. It was nothing. It was a big nothing burger, and they floated around and took people's money like they were going to declassify UFO technology to the public. If you remember TTSA to the Stars Academy, you know, I remember it like it was yesterday because we reported on all this, and I was ranting and raving about it then, and what they did. Now it's To the Stars Incorporated. And it's Tom DeLonge, Hal Puthoff, and Jim Semivan. And Elizondo right there. Yeah. So they took in a huge amount of money and had a $37 million deficit after the first year. Supposedly. So yeah, man. And this was all because Tom DeLonge, if you look up in the Tom DeLonge Podesta email, because the WikiLeaks, it leaked all Podesta's emails, and they leaked the email where the Blink 182 singer contacted Hillary Clinton's campaign chief, you know, John Podesta. You can read that email. You know, it's right up there. There's a bunch of them, you know. That's Tom DeLonge. There he is. Anyways, I'm going to, no, it's not really Lou. It's a troll account, man. Man, I have so many receipts and info on all this stuff. It has been following it forever. But yeah, there's the email if you want it. Tom DeLonge wrote to John Podesta asking to be involved in disclosure, and they gave Tom what's called the Grand Tour in counterintelligence. The Grand Tour counterintelligence. Okay. And I don't know if there's anything that will tell you about the Grand Tour, but the Grand Tour is basically what they did with Bob Lazar when Bob Lazar, you know, hanging out with John Lear, being friends with John Lear, poking around what's going on in Area 51, and Lazar applies for a job out there. They go and bring him out there and give him the Grand Tour, where they bring him in this whole, you know, room full of all these books with all this alien stuff in it, and they make him read it and drink some green liquid and then go home every day. And yeah, it's pretty clear that there's some wacky counterintelligence operations that our government runs, and then props these up for decades afterwards as, you know, real whistleblowers and real events, and uses that to shape and control the narrative. Which is wild that they've been doing this for so long and covered up so much of the science and so much truth. It's wild. And if I ever get in front of Congress, I have this massive amount of technical data and information to share on camouflage and visibility systems, cloaking, you know, counter radar, counter invisibility systems, gravity control, the whole 50s literature going back on everything gravity in 1954 that you could possibly find on the whole gravity stuff, because I was determined to figure out who figured out anti-gravity and when, if they did. It doesn't really make much sense if they figured out anti-gravity in October of 1954, while all our top aerospace companies would still be working on anti-gravity decades later. But again, maybe that's just a cover story, right? Not likely. Again, there's a ton of real technologies that came out of the Star Wars defense program in Area 51, including the electronic countermeasures technologies like the Kevin Kremeyer patents and the late Dr. Lake Marabou and John S. Lewis stuff. This is the flight craft manual. It says declassified October 2025. So this was supposed to be classified until then, but it's it was declassified years early. And again, this is all under NDA until 2027 with the guy who did all this research and still doing this research for unnamed, unknown sources and investors. Tons of technologies, just going back to the earliest electric planes that they tried to build in 1913 to electric powered spacecraft and balloons, and these giant balloons that look like the Mosul sphere or other UFOs that have been spotted, but were really some of the early GPS guidance system satellites were launched by NASA, the Pagios satellite, early GPS satellites. Very interesting. And then these spiced, the spherical indoor Kawanda effect drone. These are cool. Very possible what that Mosul sphere was, one of these type of drones. Again, the sphere, the cube within a sphere technology goes back to a CIA patent from the 1940s. You can go look that up on these coronal airborne reflectors, airborne corner reflector. And then a number of, there's a company, very interesting company called E-Green Technologies, which was developing this bullet airship, which would be pulled on a tether at really high speed. They did some test runs and test flights of this, and it was operational from 2008 to 2018, and it was based in San Diego, California. Now, this is exactly where the Tic Tac sightings were, in the exact same time. Pretty coincidental there, I might say. And I would love, as UAP czar, I will get to the bottom of all this stuff and report on it accurately and efficiently. Townsend Brown, discovering this technology in the 20s, doing research on it in the 30s and 40s, apparently for the U.S. Navy. Then in 1958 or 1956, he gets the Bonson Labs funding and starts doing a ton of research at Bonson Labs on anti-gravity, which again doesn't make sense if we figured out in October 1954, right? Maybe these other groups didn't figure it out. We're still working on it. Anyways, we're still working on it today. And if you're an engineer or an inventor and you want to, it could have been Otis Carr that invented anti-gravity in the 1950s, except that he was pretty well exposed as a hoax. Didn't really have the goods. His cyclotron was not the way to make anti-gravity. And tons of research was done into this at Boeing, into these gyroscopes and using gyroscopes for anti-gravity based on, Myron Evans and the Sandy Kidd stuff, which came from, the maglev and Eric Lathwaite in the early 60s, and all that really culminated with the work that on the research that Mike Gamble did at NASA, or Boeing, not NASA. And thank God we have whistleblowers like Mike to come forward and share all that information so that you don't fall prey to scammers and con artists that claim we figured this stuff out. Because if anyone would have figured it out, if it worked, Mike Gamble would have damn well figured that out. And Mike Gamble's a great guy. NASA Gravity Probe B. The problems with the naive gem theory of gravity, as pointed out by some of our top theoretical physicists in the game, like Nathan Innen here. Nathan Innen's broadcast is definitely one if you want to show your physics professors or the physics people in the room that know the science, because he just he really lays out a lot of stuff. We talk about 1959, towards the end of the 50s, there was this Alzafon guy that came up with this theory, which, he worked on it his whole life and then finally got funding to do some research into it in the 1980s. And with Boeing funded him to do this whole study. And there's a number of UFOs that actually look a lot like this drawing in the paper, which is really weird. So I wonder how far they got with the research, really. This has been something that Mark's been chasing down and trying to go after for a number of years now, and talking to some of the top EPR and electromagnetic resonance scientists in the field to see what they know and have learned. Of course, lots of more unclassified work that went classified, and all throughout these decades, some crashes of some odd devices. And so, the Kecksburg, Pennsylvania crash in the 60s, right? This was right around the time that General Electric was working in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, with an individual named Henry William Wallace on some gravitational devices and stuff, very similar to the rotating mercury plasma kind of stuff, which, again, General Electric would have been the perfect place to do that research, because they made all the mercury vapor light bulbs and lighting systems with all the liquid mercury and electrified mercury systems. So been the perfect place to do a lot of that research. Boeing Project Grasp, based on the Eugene Podkletnov stuff, they were trying to replicate what NASA couldn't do for $1 million to build this, disc. I don't know what happened to that disc, where it is these days, but it cost a lot of money to make that, and they never did the real experiment with it, according to my buddies who worked out there and, were familiar with all this stuff. They missed the EMF, the electromagnetic frequency component of the whole experiment. So they got it wrong, man. We're not able to, they ran out of money before they could successfully replicate anything. But anyways, lots of debates and the structure of the universe and quantum physics. Sorry, I'm getting tired. I'm putting everyone to sleep with my yawning. But I would do so much research into all this stuff. There's so much science here that could be brought up, and so much left to learn and discover about UAPs. That's real, actionable intelligence and science here. Can we use terahertz waves to warp space-time and bend space-time? Why is it so classified if it's just a way to look under aircraft hulls at aircraft paint, like it says in the papers? Just a lot of this doesn't make sense. Would investigate all of it. And before I wrap this up, though, I have Bernie joining me.
Sorry it took so long. Been working construction, and the days are long, and I don't get off as early as I'd hope.
Well, nice to have you here with us when you could make it. Glad you could make it. And a number of the scientists that we've talked about who worked on this, these are PhD scientists who worked for, Lockheed Skunk Works as a physics advisor, a real senior staff physicist. Okay. Now, Bob Lazar claims he was the senior staff physicist when he was hired. Yeah. You look up this guy's CV, right? Let's just do a search for it. Right. If I just go, let me just unshare, I'll share my window. And just type in Bernard Haish CV. Come up with this curriculum vitae, right? Publications. Here's all the papers this guy's written in order of all the history, right? Starting in 1972, he wrote his first paper. And, now going into the 90s, he's had almost 100 papers. Very interesting. Now, I haven't written papers because we've thankfully had the friggin' internet, which has been great for reporting stuff. I just make videos on things instead of doing papers because it's easier to publish, and I really don't care about the
We need to
broken
start doing
reviews.
papers, though. I think that's the one thing that might be able to take us to the next level.
Yeah, I think so too. I was just thinking that if we need to, because what happened, right, is Jesse Michaels put out that damn Byfeld Brown documentary, right? Jesse Michaels, Byfeld Brown, right? And he put out the $50,000 cash prize in that video about the CIA scientists who cracked.
That you
It's not
guys
Bob Lazar, dude.
earned.
But anyways, we spent a lot of time, considerable, personal expenses and efforts to replicate this in a vacuum condition. And Mark did it. And, he totally ghosted us on actually coming to the lab and filming that and
What?
giving
I
us the
actually
money.
have to pay out 50,000? Nope.
Yeah, but that's nothing for Jesse. I mean, he's an investor at Thiel Capital, you know what I mean? It's nothing for him to pay out 50 grand. So I don't get what the big deal is. And he should want to do the story on this if he's really into it. But I guess they were hoping that somebody else would, beat us to the punch, or that maybe he was hoping that it couldn't actually be done. And it was just no one would ever collect the prize. But I don't know what's going on about why he ghosted us and didn't give us the $50,000 and instead he's putting out, we did it within a year. I mean, this was February of 2024 where he put that out, man. And we worked hard to get that done and be the first people to do it. And now he's on the psychic Eggman and really, going hard on this Jake Barber thing. Well, I guess if I can't get the $50,000 bounty for the, for the experiment, right? I guess maybe what we'll do is, I'll tell you what, Jesse, and I texted you this already, but I'm gonna put it out there publicly. I'll bet you $50,000 that by February 1st, we'll give you till February 1st next year for Jake Barber and these psychic UFO egg people to summon a UFO and prove that they can do this and do it repeatedly under controlled settings and conditions, or show scientifically evidence of that. And I'll bet you $50,000 that this is not going to happen, that this is going to be another David Grush, and we're going to be here a year later with no fucking evidence. And I'll bet you $50,000 right now. If you're so sure that this guy's legit and he's a psychic Eggman who can summon UFOs with his damn, psychic powers and energy, then put your money where your mouth is, man. Put your.
What do you mean, Jeremy? There was clear evidence of a grainy green video of some sort of tether carrying something underneath a helicopter. Like, that's clearly first contact.
Clearly enough motivation. But anyways, yeah, that's it. I guess that's my challenge is, you believe this so much that you're willing to invest in it like this, then please put 50 grand on the table that this guy's going to produce within the next year with Logan Paul. Or have Logan Paul put 50 grand on the year. I'll bet Logan Paul the money, This would be great. Oh, and they're showing a video tomorrow. They're gonna have another disappointing video, I bet, too, right? Yeah, don't blink. And if you blink 182 times, probably having a seizure. Oh, by the way, speaking of seizures, right? I remember how on a stream I don't know how many people follow routinely, but a month ago, my stepdaughter had a seizure live on stream, right? I had to run out and put a video on and go help,
I missed
stabilize
that.
her.
Sorry to hear, but
and so what we did is we ordered this medication called Canitol spray, and this is a Canitol RX. I had done some research on different types of anti-seizure medication and treatments, And this was a CBD based nasal spray that and again, I'm not being paid for this as a paid promotion or anything. This is just science and
Parents
research.
that had a medication that actually worked.
Yeah, well, we actually we got to try it this morning. Today, she has a seizure like once a month, and this morning she had her seizure, and we sprayed a shot up the nose, one nostril, and then 30 seconds later it wasn't quite stopping, so we sprayed another one up, and almost right away. Normally your seizures last like four minutes or so, and this one it stopped the seizure almost instantly, and she was like much faster recovery time, man. I was just blown away. So yeah, this stuff actually works, and it stops seizures safely. They have another thing on the market that stops seizures, another nasal spray like this, another conventional market thing. It's not cannabis based or anything like that, and apparently if it's a one-time thing, and they become like a vegetable after you use it. And she was like, she was just out here talking and like saying, she's this is great. I'm so glad that this was a fast, effective treatment for her seizures, and it's one of the few things that we've had that actually worked. And it wasn't ridiculously overpriced. It wasn't like $600. It wasn't even close to $600 like that other medication. But yeah, there's a huge conspiracy against these types of products and these things that work.
One of the reasons they've kept it or tried to keep it illegal for so long, and now with it being decriminalized and legalized, especially for medical purposes, they're able to develop all of these different new products. Like you just tried and had success with your daughter, which is amazing. And that, cannabinoids, there's very little side effects, if any, to like the general population.
Right.
Compared to the average chemical drug medication, that it's like
it's just the whole thing with the cannabis conspiracy is it's the epitome of the harm that's been done to the medical people through the government and the government medical establishments. Because what they have literally done is taken wonder medicine, and wiped it completely off the market entirely with the big pharma drug wars, man. It's crazy what they've done. And the thing about a lot of these medications that they want you to be super dependent on expensive and hard to source and hard to make products.
And never a cure, only ever a treatment, right? They only will resell you that treatment over and over again. Anything that's a one-time cure, forget it.
Again, the gummies aren't the same, and she doesn't work. She just gets like super stony and not like and zonked out if we do anything else. So this is a non-psychoactive. This isn't like THC
you don't
gummies.
Need the THC. It's a
this
CBD.
Spray is a CBD based. It's not actually. It doesn't actually get you high. And she actually she has her juvenile medical marijuana card, so she's actually legal. Or was legal. She's an adult now, but it's still it's amazing. Yeah, it's like $100 for this nasal spray, man. The one that the other medication, the prescription one, is like $600, and it has like dangers that they can become like a vegetable after using it. It's nuts, dude. Like this is so much safer and so much cheaper. It was I just wanted to put it out there. And if anyone has an epileptic in their family or knows an epileptic, this would be an awesome birthday or Christmas present for that person. Just it worked for me. It may not work for everybody, and again, it may not work for you personally, but I tried it and it worked for us. And I just wanted to share my own personal experiments as not a doctor or a medical professional in any way, just sharing my own personal experience with this product. So again, I actually asked the chemist who made this and runs the company if he'd be a guest on the podcast to see what he if he'll come on here and talk to us about his research and help promote his life-saving medication. So yeah, but the Weinstein interview, man, that's wild that, you know, Joe hadn't seen this stuff before, man. If Joe had gotten me on the podcast years ago instead of Corbell, I would have shown him all that stuff. You know,
Joe, you got the wrong Jeremy. Wrong Jeremy. It just sounds nasty. It sounds like Ron Jeremy. You don't want wrong Jeremy on. You need the alien
Yes.
scientist.
You don't want Ron Jeremy or wrong Jeremy. And definitely not both of them together. That would be a bad combination.
Ugh. Maybe that's what needs to happen for the world to see what he is, right?
Yes, get Ron Jeremy to bounce his 10-inch schlong off of Corbell's forehead. That would be perfect. Right on Joe Rogan. Anyways,
quick
that was
recap before we go.
That was a terrible visual. Oh God, and I'm sorry for that chat and audience, man. But anyways, I have to try to be joke at these freaking idiots, dude.
It's all we can do to stay sane. So I'm
surprised he doesn't have a podcast.
Is there proof or evidence of like because there's massive like billions, I guess it adds up to the amount of US aid dollars that have gone to propping up established liberal propaganda media, and was there some published or that has been exposed directly to Lou or Jeremy yet, or just the rags that they go on that publish them that are getting funded?
Again, a lot of this funding, you know, doesn't look like it came through USAID, but that doesn't mean that USAID is the only one funding illegal counterintelligence operations or domestic counterintelligence operations. And again, the funding mechanisms for these might be harder to track down than we anticipated. But again, if we know these operations exist, we know that the UFO space is the most heavily disinfo opt space there is out there, and to not suspect that these guys getting called out to be a disinformation and counterintelligence agent, to not suspect him of being part of something like that is, I think, an oversight, and he needs to be, thoroughly checked out. I think these guys have had their share of the mic. You've had your turn on the podium, so to speak. It's time to let these people stop controlling whistleblowers and controlling what the public sees through their assets. It's really more of I think that nailing down the funding end of this is going to be a really hard thing to do at the end of the day. Because of the ways that they have of hiding the funding mechanisms for covert illegal domestic counterintelligence operations. It's much easier for them to just send money anonymously to these people in order to support them and prop them up. And again, I
wonder how many of like the super chats David Wilcox gets are like actually US aid dollars, or
right,
just government
exactly
dollars.
There could be a whole department with funding that USAID gives to this organization, and all they do is sit there and give super chats to Jeremy Corbell and David Wilcox all day. It might be something like that, so again, these things are going to take time to really dig out and investigate, but there needs to be someone in the FBI or whoever's trying to clean up these organizations and clean up USAID needs to look into
Cash Patel.
Yeah, he's busy with a lot of stuff too. It might be who knows? But I was I'm very worried. I asked my congressman today. I said, now that Trump's started to clean up the FBI, is it safe to call the FBI and report the FBI now? Right? Because that's a big question.
No, you got to call DOGE. You call the Department of DOGE, of Government Efficiency.
We call DOGE? We do? We can call DOGE? Really?
They're looking to fire people that are corrupt and that are against the government, and they're looking for, ways to cut money. So especially the FBI, because...
How do I call DOGE?
Let's look her up. Department of Doge.
Yeah, I want to find the number because I mean I want to report people in the FBI, but I'm afraid to call the FBI and make a report because just like the agency's so corrupt, they'll probably go after me. You know, like I just don't know. I don't know if it's cleaned up or clear enough yet to bring out information. And I know there's people out there that probably feel the same. They're like, "Yo, who do you call the FBI on? You can't call the FBI." And no, I don't think you can call Doge.
You gotta email Kash Patel then, because he's now the head of the FBI and really actually looking to clean it up. So
I don't know. Maybe I just call the FBI tomorrow and make a report. I was thinking about doing that. But yeah, Doge busters. Yeah, who are you gonna call? Right? I don't think it would be safe to call them, really. I just the Department of Justice, how do you bring these people? I don't trust them either, Definitely not. The whole courts are just it's such a mess. Everything's so messed up and it's so like thoroughly entrenched where it's like sitting judges who have been on the bench for 20 years now are controlled by some boy they molested at a friggin' 20 years ago, and they're still in the pockets of this. It's been so long that they've been doing this and just corrupting everyone that we really just don't know anymore who to trust in these organizations. And it'd be great if there was an office like Doge we could call that would just clean this shit up, but again, they're trying to get rid of Doge. I just before the stream started, I listened to an hour-long call with my local congressman's office, right? Listening to them, people call in from my district all around Rhode Island and give my congressman ideas for how they're going to get rid of Elon and get rid of Doge. So, man, there's people in the government, that just don't know. And I didn't, I wanted to call in and give some pro support and say, look, hey, I voted for Elon. I actually did vote for Elon. I think he's doing a great job. And I think you guys, and I think you guys are all, the only thing I think Elon hasn't done right is banning my Twitter account or allowing these counterintelligence ops to manipulate the platform and the AI algorithms so that they could ban my Twitter account. Set me up the way that they did and then ban my Twitter account. But well, I got a new Twitter account, guys. Follow me there at Jeremy Riss UFOs. And when we do get free energy, I'm going to disclose it. You believe that? We're interviewing all the scientists, anyone involved. We've talked to a lot of the top people that are in on that science. Guys like Danny Sheehan of San Diego University, not the lawyer, right? And also Garrett Modell. So I'm on the free energy stuff, trying to get Larry Forsley on to come talk about cold fusion, SPAWAR research, and all that stuff. Elon, total dodger.
Dozier.
Dave Rossi. Oh yeah, he's supposed to have some kind of free energy thing and be on the inside with Hal Puthoff and supposed to be helping bring disclosure out too. I don't know.
He's been given some good hints in his some of his recent streams where it's like if you've been looking into it and know your basics, what he's saying makes a decent amount of sense, but definitely hasn't put any blueprints or anything like that.
I don't have the time for that kind of stuff though. You know what I mean? It's like I don't have time to sit there and I'm looking for people that have information and want to get it all out and put it out there, and I'm trying to condense that and break it down in ways that the masses can handle it, and then Ashton Forbes can talk about it on his podcast and get it out to even more people. And that's what we're trying to do mostly right now, is just work with the resources that we do have to get as much information out to as many, intelligent people who can, make sense of the information and really, understand what we're putting out there and talking about. Because again, we've exposed these counterintelligence operatives. Again, the documents too. I didn't show. I meant to show this website too. I don't know if you've seen the papooselake.org website, but it's got the updated Bob Lazar timeline. This timeline is essential for really, just nailing down the whole Lazar case, point by point, and all the claims and the whole history of really everything that happened in Bob Lazar's life leading up to him getting hired at Area 51, allegedly for EG&G, and working on the most top secret program known to the entire United States government, allegedly, and why that doesn't add up. But and then the documents too, there's tons of documents in the whole Lazar case that really put it into perspective. Again, this is the stuff that Jeremy Corbell doesn't want you looking at, won't bring up, and will tell everyone to blacklist me because I can show people the truth on him and Bob Lazar, because I've done the research, dug deep, have the receipts, done the deep dives, and I know the real scientists from the fake ones, bro. You can't fool.
What are you talking about? Like living on the couch of John Lear's for a year and a half is like, that qualifies you as a top UFO scientist, no?
Yes, that is the technically, if you haven't done that, then you don't deserve to speak to Congress on this issue, clearly, especially when you can never release that documentary. But yeah, the anonymous interview, this is great if people go to his website, and this one was just hilarious. This is when he was, still before his hair turned gray, when he was still just starting out in UFOs. There's a younger Richard Dolan too. Yeah, they took real good advantage of Richard and that used him to push this fake Area 51 guy. Again, all those Area 51 witnesses are like frauds. They're all fake people that didn't actually work out there. This is Jeremy Corbell's his own website. This guy's name is Oscar Klein. That's his real name.
What? Who?
Let me find the thing. No. Oscar, is that his real name? Oh, I gotta find the Jeff Knox did a big report on this before. Jeff Knox, and I had Ed Fouché when Ed Fouché was alive. Ed Fouché did a whole analysis and breakdown of this. I still have the email from him where he just breaks down every minute of every claim in the interview and contradicts it, right?
Do you have a bunch of recordings like or audio of Ed? Like we should do a like a review stream on all of that for like all the new generation that weren't around for the days with Ed.
Yeah, I know, man. It's so hard to find this stuff, the old stuff that on people's websites. Like, yeah, Jeff Knox. This is going way back, so I'm not finding it right away with the searches on the key terms. But this guy, we had tried to track down this guy's real name. Actually, found his real name. Got his whole military record, and released everything on him. And it was none of it was what he said it was, and none of his dates, none of his anything adds up. So
always the case when it's make believe, right?
Yeah, I knew Ed Fouché, man. Who do you think gave so right in you can ask Michael Schratt. I mean, Michael Schratt knows because he got that Rolos, the whole slides. Okay, the whole thing of slides that Michael says
called you guys live from a helicopter, like going to Area 51, no? And like you guys got to listen to the whole chopper ride.
No, that was Dan. That was
that was just Dan.
That was the guy. That was not Ed Fouché. That was Dan. He called Dan Benker, and that was not Ed Fouché. That was the other guy there, Dan Burrish.
Oh, Dan Burrish. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Dan Burrish. And Dan Burrich with his sound, he has these soundboards where he can play all the, do all the funny sounds on the phone. I think that was what he was doing to Dan, pulling his leg. But I don't know. I still don't know the whole story with that. But yeah, Edgar Fouché, I have emails from Ed. Going back.
Go through those, man. That would be an excellent episode.
Also,
or
I
get
got
AI
book,
to
man.
discuss it.
I got Ed Fouché's book, and it's a signed copy. So, to me. So, yeah, I knew Ed Fouché for sure. Ed Fouché was the guy that taught me all about Area 51 and top secret programs way back in the day. That's like basically my mentor. Like George Knapp is Jeremy Corbell's mentor. My mentor was freaking Ed Fouché when I first was learning all this stuff way back in the day.
Right? Didn't he was the one that got you into the quasi crystals and the metamaterials and stuff?
It's one that talked about all that stuff first, man. He said that was like the most top secret stuff they were working on at Area 51. And he came out with that information in 1998, like before anybody was talking about that crap, man.
Ed a Rothschild?
His real name was not Rothschild Fouché, man. That's his pen name. His real middle name is Albert, Edgar Albert Fouché. That's on all his DD 214s. It's in his Air Force documents. It's in the Air Force, yearbook when he is graduated and all that stuff. It's Edgar A. Fouché. It's not. He changed his name to Rothschild for the book because Brad Steiger's co-author said it would help book sales because it would drive up controversy, which it has. It's still driving up controversy because everyone's like, yeah, I never thought he was a Rothschild. Oh my God. And then people are like, no, he's a Rothschild, dude. And it's disinformation. You can't
trust him, right? Like,
can't trust him. So
lives on through that.
Yeah, it's wild, man. But his real name's not Edgar Albert Fouché, man. And oh yeah, the ET3 videos, man. That's what made you wanted to get a degree in physics. I remember I was like a freshman in college, and I called Daryl Oster on the phone and talked to him for like 4 hours, and then got a ton of information from him. But yeah, Ed got drunk towards the end, man. He was drinking like a half a handle of whiskey like every night, and he went off the deep end towards the end, man, and we had a big falling out. That was when he was living in a shed. If you remember all that, right?
That's like usually the case for people that go through it, right? Because it's like they've seen like the top, they've been a part of the top, and then it's like you're out, you get depressed, and the alcohol takes over, and they try to get them broken or something, right? Try to crush them.
Anyways, man, I'm tired. It's been a long day. We did a 2.5-hour stream here. A ton of information was covered. I guess we're just gonna keep pushing on this these same buttons, man. And yeah, I'm just going down the memory hole in memory lane, thinking of all this stuff, man. It's been a wild ride over a long time of doing this, man. It's been a wild ride, and here we are. I mean, it's not we're like at the. So anyone's seen the Truman Show, right?
Oh yeah.
It's been a long ride, through the whole questioning the reality, seeing, and now we're at that point where we're in the boat, we're already sailing towards, the end of the earth, towards the truth. And there's nothing that they can do to stop us. That's where we're at. We're at the end of the Truman Show movie right now. It's been a long, crazy, wild ride. But yeah, the end is where we're at right now, and we're about to be
And we need to make
About to
sure.
find that door. We're about to find that door and walk through it. That's the end of the Truman Show, ladies and gentlemen. When we get off the Lou Elizondo boat of UFOlogy, and we ditch the limited hangout operation, and we open that door for Congress to see, hey, we could fund cold fusion and have free energy. We could fund propellantless propulsion, and we could have better ways to get to space than rockets, Mr. Elon Musk.
Right?
Okay.
Like, just take 1% of the money that they give for hot plasma fusion research and give that to cold fusion, and the same with 1% of what they do for rocket propulsion and give that for anti-gravity research. And it's like, that's all we would need to break through and, get functional proofs of concept going.
I don't claim to know, I've dug into a lot of technologies that sound super promising for future, but best thing we can do is just assume that anti-gravity is real, and assume that we have a traversable cosmos, that it's not, the distances are not just too far that we'll never get there across the vast distances of space. Assume that there's technology that can warp that space-time and shorten those distances. That's a safe assumption to make. And assume that it's coming. Assume that we will have anti-gravity. If we don't have it already, we will have it, and it will be figured out within the next 5 to 10 years. I hope. If Mike McCulloch or Roger Scheuer with the M Drive, or Richard Bandurek, or any of these guys that we've interviewed here and helped prop up have successful research, Brandenburg even, any of these guys makes a breakthrough, we're gonna have new physics and new technology. Quantized inertia is I can't find it now, but that's Mike McCulloch's website, quantizedinertia.com. Very interesting theory of physics. Funding currently ongoing for, some people think it's pseudoscience, but hey, who needs dark matter? Some people think pseudoscience.
String theory.
I think string theory and dark matter are pseudoscience, personally.
Agreed.
So, again, everyone's entitled to their own thoughts, and if we all agree on bad science that is a broken, stuck model, then we're never going to get anywhere, right? And you could just, we're just going to keep drilling until all the oil runs out. That's it. All right. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for watching. And lattice confinement fusion is the future. It's not free energy. It's mass conversion to energy. It's battle-tested physics. There's no conservation laws broken. There's no basic, just standard physics broken. It's all real physics converting mass to energy. And then, I want to work with Jesse Michaels. I want him to come down to our lab in New Jersey and film our damn experiment working in a vacuum with all his fancy cameras and crew. I want him to bring Jake Paul down to that event and have Jake Paul promote the science and, real interesting stuff to the younger generation of kids that need a light and a candle lit down this dark tunnel.
Right, but is he willing to put up the 50K? Right, that's
the
why
thing,
probably
man.
never happened, and it's like that's nothing to him. But
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's about the 50K or if someone else was like, "Listen, I'll give you 500K to ghost these motherfuckers and don't publish this shit. Make sure these guys don't get any exposure. They're exposing our whole counterintelligence operation, everything. These guys have been onto it. They're onto everything, and they're not playing nice." I think that's, maybe one of the issues. Anyways, have a good night. Keep, we're just gonna keep on playing by the balls we got him by the balls. We're going to keep playing by the, what's this? Element 115 plus area 51 equals 166. Patel is hiding the real shit. Yes, sir. Well, thank you for the £5 super chat. I'll make sure to buy myself a coffee, even though I don't smoke coffee. I mean, I don't drink coffee.
You're definitely tired, though.
Because you can't smoke it.
Sir.
No, I had an argument earlier on Twitter with Elizondo's lawyer, Todd McMurdy.
What?
And he was
about
like,
smoking coffee?
No, he said, hey, if you're ever in town sometime in Ohio, let's meet up and I'll buy you a coffee. And my response back to him was that I don't drink coffee, but I'll smoke a joint with you anytime. And he's like, that's not how I prefer to relax. Sorry. I said, you know that caffeine's killed more people than marijuana, right? I'm just not.
Nice.
I'm just trying to,
just troll
a little bit with these people. Because you know how lawyers hate that kind of stuff. So I was just trying to point it out to him that,
exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I just like stirring the pot because you're a fucking lawyer and, you'd have put people in jail for this crap up until it was legal. And now it's legal and you guys probably can't stand it because you just lost more of your power and control that you have over people, which is just messed up, man, because you can't just control what everyone thinks or what everyone feels and everyone reports. Okay. And the more that you attack us and the more that you blacklist us and realize that you're not cooperating, you're not playing ball with the real whistleblowers, you're not playing ball with the real information seekers and spreaders, then the more that we realize that you're not on our team and we're not going to play nicely with you, we're not going to give up. And I hope to God that your lawyer sues me, Mr. Elizondo, because then I want to show you exactly what the hell is going to happen to Lou Elizondo. Okay. Remember these videos? Remember this video right here? See this video? This was a very, very stressed out Corey Good in a courtroom deposition that he was forced to do because he
Oh
filed
my
a
God, I
stupid
have
lawsuit.
to tell them that I made it all up in my mind and that it's my content because it's my fictional story.
Yep. And that's what he did. And that was all the proof we needed.
And that is exactly why, like you said earlier,
not
Lou
gonna happen, dude.
Elizondo will never sue.
I don't need a lawyer. I don't need a lawyer for this. And I already have, believe me, I already have the law people on my team. And if he sues me, my subs would go through the roof and I would report it immediately. I wouldn't care about any cease and desist order. I would violate it immediately. Send me to jail. Sue me again. I don't give a fuck. You would
get you to court, and we can prove again that you're still hired and still working as counterintelligence for the government because it would come out in the deposition.
Absolutely, it would have to, and I would get all your finances. I would get all your. I would get to ask you everything that I wanted to ask you, that these people who you go on all these podcasts, you're now reduced to going on podcast. Jeremy Corbell and Lou Elizondo are now reduced to going on podcasts with less than 1,000 subscribers because so many people in the community are now on to the bullshit that they can't go on any major podcast or anyone that really knows them. All they can do is these small time podcasts that are people that won't ask any tough questions because they're too small and they don't want to just get stomped on. So it's pretty crazy. Oh, so I have the Zoom call back there. Is anybody in there? No, there's no participants in the Zoom call. I'm going to shut that Zoom call meeting down, and I'm going to open up this backroom chat for anyone that wants to come on. It was members only. We were having members only hanging out, but we'll do that. So yeah, the word's out, man. Everybody knows, and it's only spreading more and more people are being aware, especially now that Greer's saying it out loud and lots of people are sharing that around. And there's a big fight about it.
I'm impressed by that. It's is it two counter intel ops battling each other
again? Or, if Greer's Greer's in the same boat as Corbell, okay, well, Lou Elizondo is a trained counterintelligence professional acting in a role Stephen Greer is a country doctor who met a whole bunch of government insiders who told him a whole bunch of shit over the
Chiropractor,
years.
actually, not even country
And
doc.
he's an ER doc or a country doctor, right?
I thought it was chiropractor. My bad. Chiropractor.
Oh,
doctor.
I thought he was an ER room doctor, but
Could be.
I know that Greer is not a scientist, and he's had over 400, whistleblowers. Don't know how many of those people were counterintelligence over the years that have just fed him crap, and that he's repeated it and believed the most, impressive sounding stuff. And so I don't know that Greer's really just seems like an egomaniac who tries to impress people with all these, whistleblowers that he's met and all this knowledge, insider knowledge that he's got from these whistleblowers, right? A trauma doctor,
Oh, he was
right?
a surgeon.
ER surgeon, right? Yeah. So he saved
My
lives.
bad.
He's a good,
Okay.
I don't believe he's not a trained counterintelligence professional, because he hasn't really talked about the counterintelligence operations until like recently. He never pointed them out. He's not really tuned into the fact that, some of his Disclosure Project witnesses, I won't name any names, but some of them might just be pulling our leg a little bit hard, right? Some of them might just be, telling us stuff that's just complete bullshit, right? Because some of these Disclosure Project witness testimonies are just way too fucking retarded to be true, right? We know that some of these guys are counterintelligence guys that are basically just
Ruse.
they're plants. They're more
Original
plants.
ruse.
So I don't necessarily fault or just Greer for that intentionally, but I also don't give him a pass for it, because he should be calling out all these people and really getting to the bottom of this stuff, and being, we need to add this element of scientific skepticism to this whole subject if we're ever going to expect to know or find the truth. So again, he's complicated. He's done some good stuff, man. But again, to say that he's active disinformation, maybe they're fighting, and but I don't think maybe he's been disinformed and been told some stuff that's disinformation, and he's spread that on. But he's not in the same boat. He's like a Corbell, where Corbell is just this incredulous believer who thinks he has these great inside sources with the best information in the world, and doesn't have the skepticism or the realization to really work through that and question it effectively and thoroughly. So that's kind of my take on it all, and I could be wrong, but that's just what I get from it all. And again, to each their own. It's definitely not a Corey Good. He's not just making up bullshit to, just to do it, be part of the club. But yeah, that's it. All right, I'm going to leave it at that, guys, and we're going to look forward to that Greer interview that's going to be dropping this weekend or soon on. I'm going to go watch the rest of that Joe Rogan podcast with Brett Weinstein, and maybe text Brett and give him an attaboy. That was pretty awesome of him to bring up that information on Joe Rogan. And our day will come. Our day will come, especially if we keep pushing on the anti-gravity business, and someone eventually cracks it. Someone in this group is going to figure it out and know better than to try to patent it and go the route of Stanley Meyer or any of these other guys. We need to get it out publicly and teach us all in the group how it works. And we all need to, man, if we could get cold fusion working in an everyday reactor, we'd have free energy, man. It would be amazing. Yeah, maybe someday that will work. I've been talking to Eric about it. I talked to Eric. I won't get into it, because I just want Eric to have his privacy, man. When he's ready to come on the show, you know, it will happen, but not, you know, the tide is still turning. You know, we're still like waiting for that tide to go out. And then once it's low tide and everyone knows it's safe, we'll all go down and pick up all the fruits of the sea. But right now, it's just the tide is still shifting, and we have to pace ourselves. There's still some terrible riptide currents out there, and you do not want to get caught in those
The
tidal.
tsunami of full disclosure is coming, though. The waters receding out, and it's just gonna come back and smash all at once. I think so. Reese on Rogan 2025.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've already said that. I'm just so, I don't know if I would do it just for the information, man. I like, if I got to wear a black mask and pretend to be like the guy in the corner.
Pretend to be
Imagine if I had done like a blacked out whistleblower testimony with Ross Coulthart, though. I would have killed that dude. It would have been better than Jake Barber. They wouldn't even need to see my face, just the information alone. They'd have been like, hell yeah. Shit. Yes, dude. Well, it's gonna happen, man. I really need to get these people's attention and let them know, like, they need someone like me in charge of that desk, because I will sort out this bullshit and get to the bottom of it. And I'm not going to be no Sean Kirkpatrick working for Ronald Moultrie and taking orders from Battelle. Battelle's going to be right under the microscope. I'm going to be auditing Battelle, and I'm going to be taking a full tour with Senator Gillibrand of all their facilities to make sure there's no room down in the basement that says off-world technology, like Randy Anderson says, right?
Or off-world bodies or intelligence, like,
yeah, right. I want the bodies, guys. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna end it here, but before I do, I'm gonna take a quick poll. In the audience, we did the last poll. 72% of you watched that with Brett Weinstein. That's awesome. So I was gonna do one last poll. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to do the poll. Those are fun, but I got too much going on in my head, and I'm too tired. But yeah, guys, have a great night, and we're gonna be doing this. I'm hopefully getting some more whistleblowers out of the woodwork soon. That'd be great. Yeah, he woke everyone up to tell him he's going to bed. Deep State have lost. They have definitely lost. And there is the StreamYard link to join our behind the streams, behind the scenes fun. So if you're a whistleblower, you got some intel to drop, you can come in and drop the link in the private chat anonymously. That would be a convenient and easy way to do disclosure through real intel sources that are guaranteed not to arrest you and put you in a CIA black site like Lou Elizondo would, right? Or take your UFO material and give it over to the U.S. Army. We wouldn't do that. So if you got UFO material, we'll study it and get the results out to the public. And if you're a UFO whistleblower, we'll make sure we vet your story and get it out to the public. And we do all that. That would be amazing here.